Where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to Jiggers' place. I just made it by, as my dad used to say, the skin of my teeth. It's been a busy day. The court hearing I was in this morning took about twice, almost 2.5 times as long as they usually do. But the good news is I got the appointment, and so, yay. But it's Thursday evening, or it's the every other Thursday afternoon/evening if you're on the East Coast, when we gather here at Jiggers' place and we have a cocktail and a schmooze and prepare to relax into a weekend that I hope will be as restorative for you as I hope it will be for me. So if you saw any of the social media posts, you probably looked at them and said, yeah, this was coming. It had to be coming because the guy wears a tie every time he does a show. Right now, there were a few shows when during the time when I got, had been run down by the car where I appeared sans tie or sans cravate, as the French would say. But for the last, I think, couple of years now, I don't think there's been a single episode where I didn't wear a tie. And I am a big tie wearer, and I say that with apologies to my father, who did not like wearing ties. So no disrespect, Dad, up there in heaven Shemaim, but real men wear ties. So in honor of today's show, I actually collaborated with a different LLM. This time it was Claude, because Claude sounds more like a tie guy than ChatGPT. And we came up with a cocktail called the Windsor Knot. Now, for those of you who are not tie aficionados, that doesn't mean anything, but the Windsor Knot is the classic way to tie what's people mostly call a tie, but what's better known, or what's more precisely known as a four-in-hand tie. And we'll talk a little tie nomenclature after I mix the cocktail. So what is in the Windsor Knot? Well, first of all, it calls for premium vodka. I'm not going to give you my talk about vodka and all that. In honor of my father, since I guess you could say I'm dishonoring him by trying to convince you to wear a tie, I'm going to use Belvedere vodka. This is made in Poland, and part of my father's family was originally from Poland. And then we're going to have some dry vermouth. This is martini dry vermouth. We're going to use some blue curaçao. So curaçao is an orange-flavored liqueur. It typically comes in orange and blue varieties. This is De Kuyper's blue curaçao. For those of you like me who keep kosher, because curaçao is a liqueur, it needs to be certified kosher, and lovely De Kuyper, almost their entire line is kosher. And they updated their labels. They look really nice nowadays, and they do a nice job. And then some fresh lemon juice and a couple of dashes of orange bitters. I actually have several different orange bitters. Angostura makes an orange bitters, which is quite nice. Bitterman's makes an orange bitters as well. I don't remember where it is. But my favorite of all time is Stirring's Blood Orange Bitters. It's like heaven to smell. It's so good. So I'm going to use Bitterman's, and it does call for a lemon twist for garnish. And I was so pressed for time, I didn't have time to make my lemon twist. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start out with 2 ounces of Belvedere, and let's see if I can find my glass here. Okay, okay, there it is. I thought about I have some little bottles of Chopin vodka that I had gotten many years ago at a liquor tasting. They have a rye vodka that, I don't know, maybe it tastes a little bit different than regular vodka does. But I thought, not for this one. I think just a straight vodka. Okay. And then 3/4 of an ounce of dry vermouth. Okay. Martini does a great job. Again, for all you kosher people out there, vermouth too has to be kosher certified. You're now starting to see some U.S. winemakers making kosher vermouth. Otherwise, you got to get it from Israel, which is where I got my martini and my Campari. Okay, and then blue curaçao, half an ounce. I lost my measure. Here it is. And you can see it's got a beautiful blue color. One of my, I keep blue curaçao. I'm searching all over, and then I remembered I keep it right back here. This is where I keep the things that are handy for the cocktails I like to make. Because blue Hawaiians are one of my favorite cocktails, and of course that's made with blue curacao. Okay, and then 1/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice, and then 2 dashes of orange bitters, 1, 2, and we're gonna stir this up. And just like when we shake a cocktail, right? We're stirring it as much to chill it down as we are to let some of the ice melt, because the water opens up the flavors of the cocktail, right? So we're mixing, we're chilling, but we're also diluting a little bit and giving the different flavors the opportunity to come out by mixing a little bit of water. That's why you'll see sometimes, even when people are tasting very super high quality whiskeys, $2, $3 plus $100 a bottle whiskeys, you'll see that sometimes they will have take an eyedropper. In fact, I've got mine right here, and they'll put in a drop or two of water, and that's because the water opens up the flavor of the whiskey. Okay, we're going to take our cocktail strainer, and we're going to strain it. It's got that lovely blue color. Look at that. It's translucent. Can you see that? I'll move my fat fingers out of the way. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, here we go. Let's taste it. I have to take another taste. You know what? It's very nice. A great twist on a vodka martini. Okay, see you over on the couch. All right, here we go. So, as I mentioned, it's been a long week, but a good week, and I see got some live viewers here. So glad you can join me, and I hope you'll make this a regular practice. I know for me, this is one of the things I look for over a 2-week period. Look forward to over a 2-week period is to mix a cocktail and just relax a little bit and sort of push out all the workaday stuff, the concerns about business and finance and all that kind of stuff, and just enjoy life for a little bit. So my topic, as I said, is ties, and they've fallen out of fashion. Probably the only place I see men wearing ties anymore is when I'm in court. The lawyers wear ties, and I think the judges do too. It's hard to tell because they wear their robes, but I think the judges are wearing a tie because it looks like their shirt collars are closed. But it used to be de rigueur when I was in business in the 1980s. Real estate people wore suits. In fact, suits and ties, I should say. In fact, there's a well-known, now national real estate firm. At the time, it was just a regional Southern California firm known as Marcus and Millichap. And they had a dress code.
For men, it was dark suits, blue or gray or black, dark gray or black, and a tie. And women had to wear, the female real estate agents had to wear something similar. And many of them wore very lovely, tailored suits for women, skirts or pants and a jacket and a white blouse. And their agents always looked sharp. They always looked professional. And not only did they look professional, but they were professional. And I think part of the ethos of the firm was, if we present ourselves professionally, then that will encourage us to be the professionals that in the way we're presenting ourselves. Another sip here. So, but especially post-COVID, men don't wear ties anymore. Now, for those of you who remember the very early days of the Way to Wow shows in 2020, in the midst of COVID, so when I used to turn this room, my living room, into a TV studio, my very long time producing partner, Rick Carter, who basically we co-produced the show and Rick directed the show. Rick's custom is, when he's directing, he wears a tie, and so every shooting day, he was wearing a tie, and kudos to Rick. If he was doing something else, because there are not anything we've done, but in other projects he's worked on where he was maybe the cameraman or something like that. So then he doesn't wear a tie, right? So, I'm going to wait for a few minutes to give you the reasons why I think men should wear ties. But first, what I want to do is show you some different kind of ties and give you an idea of just what all is out there, right? So one of the ties, and these were, I think, very popular in the 1980s, were paisley ties. And this is, I actually wore this tie yesterday. This is what's called a four-in-hand tie. That's four-in-hand tie. Okay, not a foreign, not domestic. Four-in-hand tie, and you can see it now. I don't have any ties that are clip-ons. When I was a Cub Scout, one of the skills you had to gain in order to earn, I think it was become a Wolf Scout, was to be able to tie a real tie, right? And so that's when my dad taught me how to tie a four-in-hand tie. He taught me 2 or 3 different knots. Okay, but this is a very classic style four-in-hand tie. It's a paisley print. This is not the most dressy tie. A solid color tie, black or blue, would be the most formal for a four-in-hand tie. But this is on the more dressy side of ties. And then there are ties that are a little less dressy. Now, by the way, this tie is 100% silk. Okay. Then there are other ties. This is another one of my favorites. This is also a four-in-hand tie. This I got from what was a classic menswear store in the Southern California, in the Los Angeles area, actually in Beverly Hills, called Carroll and Company. They closed down their store a number of years ago now. This is a raw silk tie, so this is not as dressy as a silk tie. Although this also was made in Italy, where Italy probably makes the best ties in the world these days. And I love raw silk ties. They don't have the sheen, of course, of silk, but they have I love the texture of raw silk. And they're, like I said, they're not quite as dressy. And most of the time when I'm wearing a tie, I don't have to be dressed up, and so it doesn't matter. And then, there are ties that are, this is a print tie. This tie is a Brooks Brothers tie. Brooks Brothers makes beautiful ties. Mostly they're made in America. This is a silk tie. This is they're little foxes with there's something blue in it. Maybe they're rabbits or something. I'm not really sure. But I love this tie. It's really fun. It's it's got some character to it because of the little foxes, and people are like, what's on your tie? That kind of thing. And that used to be that used to be a fun thing. Like one time I had a tie that was all Disney villains, and things like that. So even less dressy than a raw silk tie is a woven tie. Now this, I think, is a Robert Talbot. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite tie designers, Robert Talbot. And this is silk, but the silk is woven, and it's a little hard to see probably on the video, but it has a lovely pattern to it. This is a kind of tie that I typically would wear with maybe an Oxford button-down collar shirt, with a sports coat maybe, as opposed to with a suit. To me, it's not dressy enough to wear with a suit, unless it's a very casual suit. So here's another Robert Talbot tie. This is very much I think kind of a 70s throwback, but I like it nonetheless. And it's a lot of fun. So now, lest you think that all ties are made from silk, that is not the case. Sometimes ties are made from wool, and this is a beautiful wool tie that was given to me by my friend Derek Smith. Derek Smith is a clothing designer and clothier. His label is Scarf Brothers. He has a huge following on Instagram, almost 50,000 followers. Derek is brilliant with fashion design and clothing. And again, if you remember the early days of the Way to Wow shows, so Derek was the wardrobe coordinator for those shows. And this is a vintage tie. It's a beautiful kind of forest green color. It's made by Pierre Van Buck in England. And Pierre Van Buck was established in, hold your horses, 1875. They've been making ties, hopefully still making ties, for 150 years. So to wear this tie is to really wear, kind of almost like a piece of history. So in terms of sort of contemporary ties, four-in hand ties anyway, that's kind of what's out there. Now, there's another type of tie. These are very informal ties. They're woven, they're fairly thin. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, there are ties like this. They're a lot of fun. They're much less expensive than the other ones that I showed you. And even Brooks Brothers makes ties like this. So this is Brooks Brothers' version of the kind of the thin informal tie. And man, I'm fortunate enough that I'm not fortunate that my great uncle passed away. I don't mean it that, but when he passed away, pardon me, my mother gave me some of his ties, and these are absolutely gorgeous vintage ties. Now, men used to wear ties much shorter, so you'll notice, in distinction to this Robert Talbot tie, which is a contemporary, look how much shorter this vintage tie is from the Robert Talbot tie, right? So if you've ever seen Laurel and Hardy, this is a tie that was contemporary to when Laurel and Hardy were making their short films. But to show you the quality, I can still wear this tie today. And if you're a regular watcher of the show, you've seen me wear these classic vintage ties of late. And the patterns are just absolutely wonderful. And they're the ones I have are mostly kind of maroon, although this one here is a gold and black in kind of a, I'm not even sure what the pattern is, but you can see again they're just beautiful, and they're so much fun to wear. And I get to remember and kind of pay an homage to my great uncle. All right, so those are what are known as four-in-hand ties. They're, to the extent that ties are worn today, they're the most common. The next most common is the bow tie, and there's not as large a range of styles in bow ties, at least that I've found. I didn't bring my the bow ties for my tuxedo, but the most formal bow tie is a white silk bow tie that's worn with a tailcoat when you're wearing what's known as white tie. Okay. The next most formal is black tie, wearing a tuxedo, and then from there. So this tie was made in Italy back when Barney's, the famed department store, was still in business. This is where I got it. This is a beautiful dark blue bow tie. It's classic. It can be worn with a suit. It can be worn with a sports coat. It can be worn. I've worn it, with slacks, a shirt, and a vest, sweater vest or regular. Brooks Brothers makes some beautiful bow ties. This is a Brooks Brothers bow tie, a little bit more informal pattern. That's a lot of fun, and all the menswear stores are getting their free promo today. And then this is what's known as a rep tie, and it's because of the stripes. This is a tie I got when I was in New York from Paul Stewart, one of the great menswear stores. Paul Stewart is now owned by a Japanese company, I understand. Their clothing is still fantastic, and the store in New York, it's large. The staff there absolutely knows their stuff. And one of the other great things about Paul Stewart in New York is they take on consignment cufflinks. I got a beautiful pair of cufflinks there, vintage cufflinks. Not to be left out on the bow ties, this is a Robert Talbert bow tie. You can see it's kind of almost a pinkish salmon color, with kind of a white design on it. Great bow tie. All of the ones I've shown you are silk, but just so you know, and here's now, most of them I've shown you are kind of the classic shape, but there are other shapes. So this is a wool bow tie. It's made by Alexander, I think it's pronounced Olch, and I got this at Barney's, I believe, as well. And you can see it's got a pointed end, so it's different. It ties different. Now, if you tie this tie, what you're going to find is on one side the pointed end is going to be in front, and on the other side the pointed end is going to be in back of a folded end. That is just how they are. That's part of the style, but they're a lot of fun. Now, this one you can see is much narrower than the others, so there are narrower bow ties, but there are bow ties with the pointed ends that are thick as well. And here's another one. This is a Brooks Brothers too, I believe, right? Yes, it is. So Brooks Brothers also makes this. I love this tie. This is it's not quite red, white, and blue, but it sort of looks like a faded red, white, and blue. This is kind of my 4th of July tie, my 4th of July bow tie. Again, lot of fun to wear. Here's my vintage bow tie. You can see this is a little bit wider. This was a classic 1950s, early 1960s bow tie. This was owned by my dad, and unfortunately I've worn it so much it's starting to get worn out, so I don't wear it very often anymore. I did wear it 2 or 3 weeks ago. And here's another vintage bow tie from my dad. Now, this is a formal bow tie. This is back from the 60s when they wore very thin bow ties. My dad wore this tie with a white dinner jacket, a classic look. And I love having these ties and wearing them and remembering my dad. So those are bow ties. So 4-in-hand ties and bow ties. The most common. Now, if you're going to really delve into the world of ties, you just might decide to get into the ascot. Now, most people think of an ascot as being this kind of shaped tie, where you have kind of, it looks almost like a big flap. Okay, and this is what most people this obviously happens to be a very formal one. This is black with a black paisley print on it. Okay, so they're very formal ones. This one is silk, but let me show you. I got this in Cincinnati, Ohio. Isn't this, look at this pattern? And the fellow, I wish I could remember the fellow who was running the shop. It was in downtown Cincinnati, but he showed me this, and it's got these flat. It's got a very 70s feel to it, but on the other hand, it's very contemporary. And this is one of my favorite ties. Just period. This is a silk ascot. So much fun to wear, whether it's with I have a smoking jacket, a velvet smoking jacket that's maroon. It goes with this nicely. Sometimes I'll wear, it'll be like a shirt like this. It's hard to see. This shirt has a placket over the buttons, so it's a little more formal than a regular white dress shirt. I'll wear with a shirt like this, and maybe just put on a cardigan. If I'm going to be, Friday night, it's the Sabbath, and I want to do something fun. Now, not all ascots are silk. This is a wool ascot. This is made by Brooks Brothers, right? Yes, it is. And again, it's a lovely pattern. And when I want to go a little bit less dressy, especially in the winter when it's cold, and I know it doesn't really get cold in Los Angeles, but when it's colder outside and I feel like I should be a little more bundled up, having this wool ascot around my neck feels nice and warm. It's great to sit after dinner by the fireplace, read a book, have a cognac, and feel like I'm part of the old world or the old world aristocracy, right? Okay, and then finally, now ascots traditionally were not shaped that way. An ascot was just a scarf, essentially. This is an ascot. This is probably from, I would guess, the 1950s. I got this from a friend of mine who was a little bit older than my father. After he passed away, he essentially willed this to me because we had similar sensibilities. We had both been in the military, and I won't go into the other reasons why we felt an affinity. But you'll notice that there's no, shaping to it, but it's fine because the way that you tie this, it works out just as well, and in some ways better than the shaped ascots that I was showing you before. This is silk, okay, and you'll notice it has a bit of a fringed edge. Okay, so sometimes I'll wear an ascot tucked into my shirt. Sometimes I'll wear it in front of my shirt. This one in particular, I love wearing with a cardigan, letting it kind of hang out. And not that I want to be Scrooge, because I don't want to be Scrooge, but I want to be Scrooge at the end of A Christmas Carol, where he's reformed and changed his ways. And I feel like that sort of classic English character when I wear that. But you can also just get, a scarf. Okay. This just a plain, this is a 20-inch by 20-inch scarf. It's a great pattern. It's stolen. These are made in China. I frankly wouldn't buy them again, but this is probably a pattern stolen from, who knows, Hermès or some other company like that. But these can be tied as an ascot as well. And they're much less expensive and easier to find. So there are other types of ties, but these are the ones that you would find today, and I think the ones you would enjoy the most wearing. If you're a lady, these are the ones that you might enjoy having your husband, your boyfriend, your son wear. Just getting him to dress up and be a a little bit of a gentleman. So I always take some notes so I can make sure I talk about all the relevant issues. One of the reasons that men give me for not wanting to wear ties is pre-tied ties or clip-ons are kind of weird looking, and they don't know how to tie a tie. So there are many books out there that will explain to you how to tie a tie, of course, but there's got to be a ton of YouTube videos as well. I honestly didn't take the time to find them, but I'm sure if you searched on YouTube, how do I tie a tie? How do I tie a bow tie? How do I tie an ascot? You will get more tie demonstrating videos than you would ever want to watch. Okay, and they're all very good. I'm not going to show you how I tie a tie because, for example, with bow ties, I don't tie them the correct way. I learned how to do it differently, and I've never been able to figure out how all the experts explain tying a bow tie. But here's the thing. My bow tie stays even. It stays level. Good enough for me. This is a classic book that was written, I believe, in 1928. Let me double check this. Oh, no. Oh, wow. 1829, I guess, was when this was written. This is sort of a reprint that I got from Amazon. You can see you see the pages there on how to tie a cravat. A cravat is another name for an ascot. Okay. Now in French, cravat just means tie. Okay. But in this case, I think they're, and let me just look at this. Yeah. So this is really more about how to tie an ascot, or what was known as a stock in the 19th century. But in any event, there are books like this too. I don't know. I prefer books to videos because then I can figure it out based on the instructions and the drawings. And if I'm not doing it the exact way, I don't feel judged. But I can make it my own. So now let's get down to cases here. Why should you care about all this? Why should you wear a tie? Why should you, for the ladies out there, why should you encourage your man to wear a tie? So I came up with 6 what I hope are compelling reasons why men should wear ties. So first of all, I think it gives us a professional edge in the business world and in the marketplace. So there is no doubt that in many areas, showing up in a tie, wearing a tie, whether you're in a suit, whether you're wearing a sports coat, whether you're dressed like I am with just a shirt and a vest, you are going to be distinctive and you're going to be remembered. Now, you might say to me, nobody wears a tie in tech. Well, yeah, that's true. Guys in tech wear, jeans and t-shirts and maybe, a sports coat. What would it mean to show enough caring about your profession that you wear a tie, a collared shirt and tie when you show up to work? Now, by the way, I wouldn't recommend that you wear a dressy, starched white shirt, although that certainly would be fine. Maybe it's an Oxford button-down collar shirt with a rep tie, like you would see in the Ivy League, or a raw silk tie, something like that. What is that going to mean for how people perceive you? And doesn't mean you have to act stuffy. Act the way you would normally act. Interact with people the way you would normally interact. I don't know. I think it might give you a professional edge because it shows that you care enough about the details of life that that will translate into how you take care of work. So I think there's a professional edge for men who are willing to wear a tie. I think too that there's a perception of enhanced credibility. And this is why I believe that lawyers, especially when they go to court, still wear ties. When a man is in a courtroom and he's either a lawyer, and so therefore what's known as an officer of the court, and so by being admitted to the bar, it's understood he will be telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Or whether you're someone like me, I'm not literally an officer of the court until I'm appointed, but I may be a petitioner if I'm seeking appointment. When I show up in a tie, I'm saying something to the judge. I'm saying, I am a credible professional fiduciary. Okay. You don't have to worry about whether I take my profession seriously or not. I do. And I want you to perceive me as someone who's credible and someone who's committed to fulfilling my duty as a fiduciary, meaning setting my duty to administrate a trust above any self-interest that I might gain from that position, right? So enhanced credibility is a second reason to wear a tie. A third reason, and this is one that I will say resonates strongly with me, is the way I dress impacts the way that I feel. And I feel much more confident when I'm wearing a tie because I know that I've taken the time to carefully consider how I wish to present myself to other people. And this is important. There are oodles of studies that show how we dress impacts how we behave. It's true for children in school, it's true for adults. And so what I want to do is set myself up to be behaving at the highest level of appropriateness. When I have a tie on, I'm more likely to do that because it gives me the confidence, the self-possession to be the man that I want to be. So that's number 3. Number 4, this is another one that particularly resonates with me. It's a versatile, fun style statement. So this is a Robert Talbot bow tie. It's kind of a golden yellow with some chocolate colored stripes in it, and it's fun. It's a little bit whimsical, not super whimsical, but a little bit, and it's fun to tie it. It's fun to wear it, and I remember my friend Jackie Yaris, who for decades was my internist. When I used to wear bow ties when I joined her when I was at her house for lunch, she'd always tease me and she'd say, "You look like a pediatrician," because pediatricians wear bow ties so that the little kids won't pull on them and choke them, right? But it's fun to dress myself up a little bit more than I otherwise would. And I take a couple of minutes each morning in selecting my tie. What's going to express the way I'm feeling? Or if I'm not feeling great, what will make me feel better? What tie can I put around my neck that will make me feel better? But by the way, it's almost always a raw silk tie. So if you see me wearing a raw silk tie in any of my shows, it's probably because I didn't sleep well the night before, or I've had a tough morning for some reason. But there, it adds some creativity to the way a man dresses, and I find that an enjoyable way to start my day. So number 5 is wearing a tie shows respect for the occasion. Now, for me, for the people with whom I interact, whether it's in the business world, where last time I saw my accountant, well, actually not the last time, but this is actually now going back several years ago. We went and had lunch. My accountant, my very long-standing and great friend, Bruce Bylowski. So we met at a kosher restaurant in the San Fernando Valley, and I showed up wearing a tie and a jacket. And Bruce does not wear ties. He always dresses very smartly, but he doesn't wear ties. And so he said, "Why are you wearing a tie?" And I said, "Well, I'm coming to have an important meeting with my accountant, and so I think I have to dress appropriately." And Bruce kind of looks at me for a minute. He's like, "Wait, I'm your accountant, right?" And a little bit tongue in cheek, what I wanted to say to him was, "You are important, not you're important in my business life and my personal life, and I want to honor that this occasion, because we don't get to have lunch very often, and so I want you to know that I took this extra little step here to let you know that this meeting is important to me," right? And he hasn't asked me that since. But that's one of the reasons I wear a tie, is to show some honor and respect to the person with whom I'm meeting. So when I go to my bank, which is in one of the high rises in downtown LA, American Business Bank, they're up on the third floor of one of the high rises in downtown LA. The security guard there, who is required to wear a suit, and he always looks sharp, right? And there are times when I would show up there having come from working out. I'm in workout clothes. I look like a mess. And no, I can't do that. I have to meet this gentleman where he's living. And so now I dress like this, or sometimes I'll even have a suit on. And the kind gentleman that he is, he always takes the time to compliment me. And one of the times he was particularly kind in his compliment, and I said, you know that I didn't always dress appropriately to come to the bank. And I said, seeing that you dress this way every time I'm here, it inspires me to up my game. And he smiled, and I think he liked that. I think if he were sitting here with me, I think he would be going, "Yes, men should wear ties," right? So, but it's a way to show respect and honor for an occasion, whether it's a wedding, whether it's a date, whether it's an anniversary, whether it's a bar mitzvah, a quinceañera. I don't know about a quinceañera, so I've never been to one, but some kind of family celebration. Wearing a tie shows respect for that occasion. So that's number 5. And number 6, and this, I think, is something that isn't often considered anymore. And that is, for centuries, literally centuries, men have worn ties. And so when we wear a tie today, we as men connect ourselves to centuries of manhood. We connect ourselves to a chivalric tradition where we had to conduct ourselves in an appropriate manner. We had to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. We had to show respect for women. And unfortunately, I don't think there's enough of that attitude and behavior in society today. But when we wear a tie and we connect ourselves to that tradition, to what's known in Hebrew as a masorah, a bringing forward of the way things have been done for a long, long time, we compel ourselves to act in the best tradition of manhood. And to me, and that's why I saved this for last, to me, that's what being a man is about. It's not about showing how tough we are, or how vulgar we can be, or how strong we can be. It's showing that we will stand up for manhood and for what manhood traditionally meant, taking care of our families, being concerned about our communities, not in some abstract sense, in the actually going out and taking care of people way. Going to a community meeting and seeing what needs to be done, and then organizing a group to actually do them, to man a soup kitchen, to clean up graffiti, to patrol the streets so women do not have to be afraid if they're walking home after dark. These are the things that men do. And when we wear a tie, whether it's a bow tie, a four-in hand tie, an ascot, a bolo tie, like you see with Western wear, or any other kind of tie, and there are others, I assure you, we connect ourselves to that tradition and to that imperative for manhood. And to my mind, that is the most important reason why I would urge you to consider wearing a tie. So I'm this close to convincing my nephew. I don't know if he's watching, because this is usually his drive home time. But Matthew, if you're watching this, I'm waiting for you to say, Uncle Kev, I'm ready. But in any event, that's why I encourage men to wear ties, and I encourage women to say to your men, I'd really love it if you'd wear a tie. So there you have it. So my cocktail glass is empty, but this scoop is kind of small. So I have more waiting for me in the mixing glass after the show is done. Thank you very much for joining me and letting me talk to you about one of the things in my life that's probably silly by any standards, but something that I have passion for. I wish you a wonderful rest of the afternoon or evening, a wonderful rest of the week. I hope you have, as I said at the beginning, a restorative weekend. Have some time with family and friends, get outside, get some exercise, have some great food. Maybe you'll have another cocktail. And it only leaves for me to sign off. My Marie, and I don't usually say much about her other than that the place, or that what she is to me. So Marie was a Southern belle of the First Order, and her men wore ties. Every time I went to visit Marie, I had a tie on, usually a suit as well, because I wanted her to know how much I loved and respected her. And so Marie, you are my belle for so many reasons, including that you inspired me to be the best version of myself. Courage at all times, my friends.